Hello, hello. This is Peter.
Welcome to the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast. I'm Eric Trollson.
Wow, this is a great way to climb mountains and come down,
For our reception, our Vulcan buddies brought acid.
I was dropping in and snaking people and causing shit.
I remember calling on the radio and I'm like, Brushy, where are you?
Greg would do the tricks. He was kind of like the Tony Hawk of snowboarding.
I mean, people just really gravitated to the backcountry.
I liked Greg, but he didn't really care for me too much because I was a little shithead.
This week's guest is responsible for so much of the direction snowboarding has gone in its first 40 years. From redefining new school freestyle to paving the way for aggressive trick innovation, Peter Line quietly created the specialist professional snowboarder by dominating the first wave of big air contests. All while helping to build the Forum, Foursquare, and Special Blend brands from the ground up. The music behind me is from Mac Dog's The Meltdown Project, specifically from Peter's part. We watched this part over and over to see which tricks were switch and reveled in Peter's ability to ride so smoothly and so definitively in his own way. Peter started snowboarding just a few hours from our headquarters here in Vancouver, BC.
The first time I quote, went snowboarding, I was like 12, I think, and I had a skateboard and we went to Mount Rainier, and I tried to ride it down backwards, but that didn't really work out very well. But my real snowboard was the winter after. I got a Burton 140 Elite. It was like the blue one with the swallowtail and the fin, and the big giant 3 buckle bindings. I started the winter after the License to Ill came out, and that came out yesterday, 30 years ago. So that'd be 86. Well, I kind of started realizing that too. I was like, oh, I was watching snowboard videos then, unless it was the year afterwards. 86, how old would I have been? I would have been 12. That's crazy. I think it was that next winter.
What were some of the first videos that you've got to see?
At the time, it was like just the Sims videos, which was like maybe the Sims video, I think it was called maybe, and then Snow Days or something. And then like, oh, geez, I can picture them. But like, we actually started watching summer videos before we even started. Like Tom Sims and Dave Weaver going down like a big powder hill, and then like, obviously, Terry Kidwell's like McTwist in the backcountry of Tahoe. It's like all those kind of videos before I even like set foot on a snowboard outside of my living room.
So you were interested in it because you were a skater kid kind of thing in Seattle?
Yeah, exactly. All my friends and I skated and like kind of skied a year or two before, and so then kind of got into skateboarding from my friends up here moving into a different school, and this is kind of easy transition of all of us doing the same thing. And it's kind of the first year they had like a snowboarding in the ski school, the local ski school too. So it was like really easy for the parents to kind of like, okay, get your kids some snowboards or rent them or whatever and put you in the ski bus every weekend.
So who was your first sponsor, and was it like you and a bunch of your buddies and you all got like a shop sponsor?
A little bit. Like my first kind of one, which I kind of say is kind of, because I don't even know if it was really a sponsor, is like Looney Tunes snowboard shop in Kirkland, but like they didn't really give me anything except for stickers. Like I even had to buy like a shop T-shirt type of thing, which is kind of bullshit. I mean, it gave me a pro form on a board, so I don't know if I'd actually consider that because I was really young and didn't really realize it's not really a sponsorship. It's just kind of like free advertising for that guy. But then I got back from amateur nationals and got like third, and got sponsored by Greg's Green Lake, like a snowboard kind of bicycle shop. And the guy who started that thing started another shop, and I think right in there I started getting like kind of Division 23 stuff. I think the winter after that.
Like Steve Blakely stuff? Was that like that year where the...
Yeah, the year it started. So my one friend Terry knew Greg DeLeo from Barfoot, who just started Division 23, and he pretty much called him up, said he had to put this kid on a team. Greg listened to him and set me aboard that summer when I was out being a digger up in Whistler.
You went up to Whistler, not down to Mount Hood?
No, that year I went up to Whistler. The year before I was like kind of a camper at Mount Hood. Like we somehow got a discount because my friend would just drive us up to the mountain every day. It was like at Wendell's. So instead of taking the bus or something like that, my friend drove up, and then that kind of gave us the time to actually hang out the half pipe after everyone left. And that was kind of my first time meeting Kurt Heine, who I'd later film with every year until basically my retirement.
In 1994, Peter's Division 23 boards were among the top-selling boards at the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, where I worked. The boards came in bright, glossy pastel colors like pink and blue and featured a simple rainbow with his name underneath. This graphic was redone by Forum and Capita as tribute boards and because the design is classic and timeless.
As far as the pink and the rainbow goes, that was my idea. I didn't really know Photoshop and Illustrator skills at that time, so I had to have somebody else actually draw it up. Something that's like not the skull that were everywhere at the time.
Yeah.
Completely the opposite. But one of the smaller boards, I was obviously a smaller dude, but then like with the kind of nose kick is definitely a copy of Jamie Lynn's board that kind of had like a double kick on it. Like, oh, I want to do that. That's like the coolest new thing. But then also kind of wanted a low profile nose because I wasn't really a big powder rider guy at the time, so I didn't really need a big nose. But quickly learned that I needed a bigger nose on that board.
You probably had a pretty good relationship with the Mervyn guys, even though you never rode for them.
Before I got on Division 23, I sent them like a sponsor me video or something, and I think they actually made reference to that at some point. Like, yeah, Peter sent us to his resume video, we passed on it. And like that shows how smart we are, something silly like that. Yeah, I don't think anybody really gets sponsored by sponsor me videos. I mean, sometimes the kids are like, "Whoa!" Actually, then you like hit a rep to like give them some product or whatever like that. I think that's like maybe the most that's ever happened with those things. But I don't think it's ever been like, "Oh shit!" That's like the first step anyway. Then when like there's like a shoe or something out, reps territory is, and then like, "Oh, can we bring out fucking Cameron or whatever?" I'm like, "Sure." And then Cameron comes out and like, "Oh shit, Cameron's killing it."
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's on the B team. There's definitely been like a bunch of the rep riders that come up and become like the dudes, like Cameron Pierce and Stevie and all those guys. I think are all rep riders and small time dudes that kind of just came up and got bigger and bigger.
We talked about Peter inventing tricks. I'd looked up the Misty Flip on Wikipedia thinking he'd invented it, but it was credited to Jason King. In that article, Wikipedia mentions Peter popularizing the trick in Transworld's Video Magazine, Volume 1.
I don't know what Wiki says. It was like corkscrew, like cork 5, switch cork 5, back cork 7, switch back cork 7. At the same time, Ali Goulet is doing something pretty similar. So who's to say who's actually the first? His is a little bit different, but then he also only did it kind of back 5-ish, but I did it all different ways possible, so I think I kind of may call it cork now, so. I think like when it came out, it was a Transworld Video Magazine where there's 4 a year, and then I think we actually did a full-length video at the end of that season. It's a long video part.
Yeah.
So every time like the Snowboard Transworld Magazine will come out, it has like a different new variation because it's kind of progression throughout the year.
Rad.
So I learned at 5, and I quickly learned it switch at 5, and then a little bit after that, 7. Actually, I think it's the same video, 7, and then switch 7 later in the season. I mean, I think at the time, people were just kind of learning or just kind of figuring it all out. And then the progression was quick because everyone had to learn the tricks like kind of like as soon as they come out. And so they're kind of busy learning the tricks and before kind of inventing into the thing. I don't know. These days, it's still like kids like doing crazy new stuff. Yeah, it's crazy like these kids. And they still keep the style, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I respect that. Yeah, and that's definitely like a huge drawing to the sport. That it doesn't have judges, like you're the own judge, you're having your own fun, like people being outside can appreciate that's where it's kind of like a little more of an art form, sports type thing, because it's like no one's telling you what to do, what's cool, what's not cool necessarily.
What was it like to compete at that level? It must have been a bunch of years in a row where you were just following the competition circuit and those big arena events.
Yeah, I was never really been a contest guy. But that just kind of became like the big air, became like the kind of new contest, and like, well, that's my forte. Just kind of hit this jump 3 times, and all I have to do is basically land it once. So I always have like the newest trick that I just chuck off of it and hopefully land. But yeah, like the whole contest scene, especially, I mean, X Games wasn't really as crazy. I mean, it was cool, but that's like mostly like TV exposure type stuff. But like, there's the ones in Europe, the big stadium ones in Europe, where there's 25,000 people there, like cheering. You can't even keep your thoughts. And all this is black with like a straight line to the jump, and then there's a spotlight on you, and you just gotta go do it. And so you can't even like think when you're dropping in. You just gotta go off muscle memory, and hopefully you land it. Those are super fun.
Was there overlap between you and Travis? In my mind,
I think there's one contest I did, like a Red Bull thing during the Salt Lake City Olympics. There's like some wall ride to a jump type contest, but it was like an elimination round, which I fucking hate because it pretty much keeps people doing like kind of stock shit just to get to the finals. So I'd always kind of do like the hardest trick, and adventure would fall with the elimination round. Kind of hate that contest. I think he actually won it. I think he won it. That was like the first time I've ever really kind of heard the kid.
What do you think of that whole Travis thing that he's got going?
I think he's an amazing snowboarder. He's doing something that hasn't been done before. I think it's pretty awesome the way he did it the first movie, especially. Then it just kind of started becoming some sort of National Geographic, this is what snowboarders do, like here's a snowboarder, what they do type of thing, to like a normal person, like where I could just see, like I couldn't sit through, like it was like 15 minutes before it was even a snowboard shot in like a second movie, I think. Like I can't even watch this. It's ridiculous. And I heard this last movie is even worse. So like I think this, from what I heard from like about this last movie, I don't pretty much hate it as a snowboarder. I think he's gonna kind of change his kind of trajectory of what he wants to do with it. Yeah, like him, like he made it like a big thing, and it's awesome. And he's an amazing snowboarder and has changed snowboarding so much. But the way he's doing his movies is like it's made for like other people, not for snowboarders. I like keeping it in the family.
Did you ever go to the Supernatural events?
I judged it one year, but then I kind of got hurt the day before, and so I didn't get to ride it after the contest was over, which I was kind of bummed on. It looks like so much fun if you kind of like slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
From some of what those guys are doing, for at least my level. A little slower than sending it to the bottom on some of those jumps, which you can easily do. Of course, it's really fun, though.
Do you do any other judging stuff?
Nah, that's not really my deal.
So, from Division 23... was Forum the next thing?
I was like 20 when that all kind of started coming around. I was riding, they just started Foursquare, Raw Reese at the time, and Greg was just the president at Division 23, and those guys were friends. So they started talking with Mac Dog. It's kind of like, hey, we should start a snowboard company. And so they just kind of came to me, offered me to kind of help start up with them, just me being the rider, obviously, but like kind of getting ownership. They knew I could probably go to Burton for a bunch of money. Kind of like the hot new shit at the time.
Conceptually, it was brilliant. It was like successful first year. That's unheard of.
No, they like Brawl was kind of pretty genius about that stuff. He was basically copied Steve Rocco from World Industries and kind of was hanging out with Steve at the time and kind of like picking his brain on how to do things. And it's basically, yeah, you create the riders. You don't buy the riders. Kind of with me and Mac Dog going out there and finding new young kids who are going to be the hot shit coming up instead of like going out and paying for the already expensive guys.
Was there anyone that you would have put on the team that you just didn't ask? Like, who was in consideration for that Forum 8? Ingemar was always there at the beginning, but he was riding for Atlantis at the time, and he had pretty good kind of ties with them and didn't want to leave. And it could have been a thing, too, don't put all eggs in one basket. I mean, we watched like the videos, and that's where I kind of saw JP doing a bunch of switch stuff, and so I go, oh, this kid's good. And like BJ, I always kind of saw him riding around, and like he'd always kind of like bum me out because he's riding so good, and like the younger rider. And so it's like whenever basically kind of my turn was whenever I'd be jealous of some other kid, I'd put him on the Forum team type of thing. Like some kid's like doing better than me at something, I just put him on, like instead of like being against him, like have him join. BJ, right. I think would go for like hot or something like that. Yoni would for hot too. I remember talking with Devin about the eggs in one basket thing. He switched over to Forum, but he kept like maybe his boot sponsors. Yeah, I think he stayed on DC when we started doing Forum boots. Yeah. If DC was around then, I don't remember timeline. That was his thing. Was he was like, if I go Burton, I have to drop all my other sponsors. He didn't seem like a Burton kid, though, Devin. He doesn't seem that way at all. He's a super motivated rider. Besides his park, he learned to hate park pretty quick. Did you ride with him a lot in those early years? Yeah. I rode with him in Division 23 days. Some shots from both of us up at Lake Louise from one of those video stomping grounds or something, I think. And then, once we got back on Forum, we kind of rode up in Whistler and backcountry up there a bunch. Yeah, I heard. Kind of a little bit different style of riding though, so like he kind of like go off on his own thing, kind of do more drop type stuff, to where I like always trying to find some weird jump type of thing. Cool. It wasn't quite his style, 100%, and like I don't really like to drop stuff. So I remember him mentioning that your sled was buried in his yard.
I hated snowmobiles. They're just a means to get to the top of the hill, and then that's it. Like, it's not really I'm scared of, like, getting hurt or, like, hitting a tree or anything like that. It's more like when you're side hilling and you kind of mess up and, like, go down this valley and I get stuck down there and you can't get out, or you gotta, like, hike out or something, or like, lose your sled, or bury it, and then you gotta dig it out for like 2 hours. You're just sweating, and then it's gonna kind of ruin your entire day.
Totally.
Because you're sweat all day, and then as soon as like get back on it, like you're freezing cold and you can barely ride. Yeah, and you're just so kind of gripped by the time you get to the jump from like doing some sketchy like traverses over top of some cliffs or whatever like that. Like by the time you get there, you're like already lost all your adrenaline. And, like, we just want to take a nap.
The first Forum Snowboards came out in 1996.
Yeah, boards the first year completely sucked. They just fall apart and break, and yeah, I went through so many boards, and then the bases started peeling up. Fortunately, we had kind of like the marketing behind it for people to kind of trust year 2 or year 3 possibly actually at that point.
How difficult was it for you to go from being a rider for a company to part owner?
Even when we kind of started Foursquare, even though it was, yeah, part owner of that too. I don't know if it was like necessarily just being owner or just like having the chance to be involved with the company. And like, so the Foursquare designed a jacket and pant for the first year, and the year after that progressed to like doing like the majority of the line, and then grew from there to there to where like I'd like to be involved with the companies, whether owner or not, but like being an owner obviously gave me that little bit of like, this is my design, do it type of thing over top of the employees. It kind of gave me a little more clout to do my ideas, which is kind of awesome. Obviously, like with Foursquare, if someone didn't like my jacket or like his pocket was stupid or whatever, I would care because it's something that I designed and I kind of felt personal about and wanted to kind of perfect it the year after or like improve on it. So with the boards is obviously very similar. Granted, I had a little less touch with the boards besides just graphics and like kind of shapes and stuff like that. The construction is obviously all factory. So yeah, I mean, it's always like kind of bummed when some kid comes up to me and is like, dude, I got your board, it broke like 2 days later, like what the hell? I'm like, sorry, I don't know, like I'm not the engineer. Like I've broken a bunch all year round, so it's like not just you, buddy.
And then when did you retire from professional riding?
I retired a couple times. First time I was like around 01-ish, but kind of retired from like kind of big X Games and stuff like that around there, and then kind of would only had like really small kind of video parts after that, and eventually kind of like took a hiatus on video parts until I don't know, like 08 or something like that, when Forum Against Them came out, and so I kind of had like a little coming out again with Forum Against Them, and Fuck It. After that, I had a little part in there, and then Petty Files was kind of a little joke part. After Petty Files, pretty much it then.
What's a typical year of snowboarding for you like now?
I was doing some photo shoots here and there with electric, like kind of go up to Bald Face or whatever, and like take the old man snowboarding, put a helmet on him, some goggles, and send him off a jump and get a method shot.
Yeah, nice.
So I don't know. Maybe that'll work again this year. It'll be awesome if it's powder day and bring me back up there. But mostly just like, powder day, I'm going to go head up the Alpental, ride some POW. I went with Dakine on a trip to Japan a couple of years ago. So it always kind of seems like there's like trips here and there that I go on.
I heard about the Austria trip last year. It sounded like that was the best.
To Norway.
Norway,
That was this past spring. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Like Terry and Johan were up there. That was pretty funny. Like the conditions were like whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sloppy, slushy, rainy. But the crew is pretty fucking legendary for sure. Yeah, it's for Method Mag, so like they might have some things that kind of did some video stuff and some photo shoots. It's kind of funny.
Let's talk about selling to Burton. Were you involved in that sale, selling Forum to Burton?
Not really. That's like kind of pretty much the money dudes at the time, and at the time we weren't doing so well. So like you just kind of start seeing it, kind of like employees leaving, employees telling us stuff. I'm always hopeful, but then like, you're down to like your last kind of employee, and like, oh shit, what's going to happen here? But then like Burton comes in and is like, well, it's better than selling to like a soy sauce company, and like, so like, Burton bought you? It's like, no, like they saved us. Like we wouldn't even be around. So like, even like when Burton put us under like a few years later, I mean, it's kind of thing as well, we last a little bit longer.
The Give Forum to Peter hashtag, did that warm your heart?
That was pretty cool, yeah. It was pretty funny. I knew it wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, why do you think Burton made that decision?
That I think it's also like look after number one, and I saw kind of Nike and Adidas coming in pretty tough, and Under Armour even. They all have like a lot of money. And, like, for a long time, like Burton was the one with the money and like kind of deepest pockets in the snowboard industry. And they kind of saw those other kind of big companies putting a lot more money into it, and they're like, okay, they're coming after us. Like we might as well protect our walls and like forums, like doing all right. But so that's my guess. And I kind of maybe foresaw kind of the industry kind of going as it is right now, how Burton is like kind of forced to kind of go into like apparel and kind of like mountain goods. They could have foreseen that coming also, and like Forum, the same thing. They couldn't go the whole ski route, so I mean, the smaller company that would have been hit first with the whole industry blah blah type of thing. So.
Were you involved in the Burton Forum? Like, did they keep you on as a brand manager or as a designer?
At the beginning, like I was kind of like we did like another designer kind of in there for Foursquare. I was kind of doing little things here and there, like a little line of stuff, and kind of helping out a little bit here and there. And then they kind of bring in team every little once in a while to kind of go over some products or whatever and get some input or graphics or whatever. Just kind of show the team stuff, do that type of thing. And then at the very end, they brought me in to become basically brand manager, creative director of Foursquare again. So they brought me into a trade show for like a kind of introduction to like all the reps and distributors and everything that I'll be doing the year after that. And then the year Donna was on stage like, we love the program. The program's not going anywhere. And then less than a year later, they announced that we're shutting down the whole thing. So all my designs for Foursquare never really made it up anywhere.
Peter grew up in the hometown of a certain legendary pro snowboarder. This interaction happened in the late 1980s.
Bike Factory is kind of like a local skate snowboard shop, and I need to get like a stomp pad or something. And so like after dinner, my parents drove me by there to go run inside and grab a stomp pad, and then I had like an autograph signing with Craig Kelly. There was like no one really in there except for like kind of like the local shop dudes and Craig, and like I'm like a little kid that comes in, and Craig's kind of sitting there with like a poster and a pen. And then I was like, hey, do you want an autograph from Craig Kelly? I'm like, no, I just need a stomp pad. So I was all like embarrassed and shy. I'm sure like Craig's sitting there like, God damn it, that one little kid comes and doesn't even want one. So that's fun. That's happened to me before, so yeah, it's pretty bad sometimes.
Oh, that's amazing, dude. So right now it's mostly Dakine.
Mostly Dakine and that stuff. It's like really stoked on it, so I'm pretty hyped. You know, we'll do some other projects here in the future.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me, man.
Oh, no problem.
Nice talking to you, man.
All right, I'll talk soon.
See ya.
All right, see ya.
Special thanks to Number One Cup for the Strange and Silent Staircase song off their album Love Your Early Stuff. This song was featured in Peter's part in Mac Dog's The Meltdown Project, which came out in 1995. Also, thanks a lot to Peter Lime for talking with us. Be sure to come back next week for another episode of the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast, brought to you by BR Productions.